thank you for coming here and welcome. You have, we are now in the VC panel. So this is the money where the money comes from when you have a startup, no? And we have it's a pleasure for me having so experienced people now here with us. Unfortunately, we don't have women. This is not our fault. So we wish we had somebody. So there is plenty of women in the VC arena, in this investment arena, but unfortunately we only could choose these guys. Okay, so it's about that. Let's go for it. The point is, we have here Santiago. We have Laurent from Sabadell. Well, it's impossible not to know Joe Sanfeliu from Asabys, and last but not least, Sebastian from Capital. Please, could you explain to the people that is here some your experience, your background, what have been doing to deserve to be here with us?
Okay, great. Can you hear me properly? Yeah? Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting us to this panel. We are Clave Capital. We are a venture capital firm. We were based in 2001. So we've been in the market for more than 20 years, investing in startups and early stages companies. Since 2015, we focus our venture activity in tech transfer investments. We are now managing 47 million euros through 5-6 different funds. And we have in our portfolio like 20 companies, mainly focusing medtech, e-health, nutrition, and some biotech as well. And we are now promoting a new fund, just with the sponsor of the CDTI, the Ministry of Industry, to manage a fund of around 60-80 million euros, also focused in digital health.
And your typical ticket and some investment that we can...
Yeah. We normally invest in the pre-seed round. So we begin investing with tickets of 500K. Then we go to the seed round, investing like 1 million. And the purpose of this new fund is also to be able to invest in the A round, investing like around 2 million euros in this company. So our purpose is always to invest, co-investing with other players in the market in the way that we could just invest around 2-3 million euros with other co-investors in order to have these medtech companies to the market.
Medtech mainly?
Medtech mainly, e-health, and some also bio, but always co-investing with specific investors in this sector.
And one special investment you are proud of?
Just taking a look at our first investments in the medtech companies, we invested in a company in 2015, right, where it was just a tech transfer from a university in the north of Spain, which is called Arens, for example. And we are already selling in 4 different countries in Europe. And we expect to have the 510K during this year.
Oh.
And that's one case. We have another company where we have just closed a financial round with international investors, just linked to the LCI surgeries. And we have already just succeeded in all the regulatory process, and we are also trying to go to the American market during this year.
We will go back to these American transfers, these American travels. Let's go with Joe Sanfeliu. You have dozens of investments. So.
I'm Josep Sanfeliu. Joe, nice to meet you. Thanks for the invitation for this panel. I'm Josep Sanfeliu. I'm the managing partner and co-founder of Asabys Partners, who's basically a venture capital firm based in Barcelona. We are investing out of our first fund, 117 million euro fund. So it was a big fund to start. But we've already invested in the 3 verticals in which I've been personally working for the last 15 years as a partner in venture capital in healthcare. We do medtech, we do biotech, but we mostly do digital health. And when I say mostly, it's because we've been doing this for the last 3 years. But my first digital health investment was back in 2015 from my previous firm. So I've been navigating the digital health transformation, and from my background in pharma, I've been seeing the industry going forward. I think today we will talk a little bit about investments in health and digital health. Mm-hmm. So Asabys is basically looking for companies that have a disruptive angle, typically a therapeutic approach. So companies that we invest in typically have a clinical trial in place in some sort of evidence that you have to show the agencies or the industry.
Phase
or
1,
your
phase
physicians.
2.
Well, we are always investing preclinical. So what we do is disruptiveness support with financing. We can put into a company up to 12 million euros. So we do a first ticket of 1, 2, 3 million, and then we follow on in the future financing rounds up to 12 million, 10 million. We always do co-investment from day one. So we have a couple of investments that we already brought international venture capital specialized health tech money from day one. And a couple of investments I think are worth mentioning, just because we're going to talk about health and everyone in this panel knows about health and technology and we're in the mobile. But we have a company in Berlin called Caracare that we did co-invest with Johnson & Johnson. We are the lead investors. I'm actually the board member and very active in that company. And this is the first company in gastrointestinal that got a reimbursement. So the company now has had, as of yesterday, 75 prescriptions. So that means a German doctor that has a patient with inflammatory bowel disease can decide to prescribe a pill or an app in the cell phone, first time. And they get paid, the company gets paid for every prescription, 700 euros for a treatment that lasts 3 months. So I think it's the best example of how digital therapeutics is not a theoretical approach, it's absolutely a way to augment therapies with drugs. And it's a very good way sometimes to replace drugs, which actually in mental health and in many other cases is already proven. Another company which I'm proud of, and it's based in Health Hub in Barcelona, Asabys, now called Amelia. It's virtual reality for mental health, which is a company that has shown in several studies globally that virtual reality, you've seen metaverse, goggles around the different places here in mobile. We've shown that using virtual reality, you can reach the brain, you can reach the mind, and you can treat phobias, anxiety, and other disorders. So this company is based in Barcelona. In my portfolio, I have to say, it's the company with the biggest ARR, yearly revenue recurrent. So it's amazing how they're performing in Europe and in the US. And we bring in treatments with virtual reality to patients. And then I think a third company, which is more on the tech side, more medtech, it's InBrain, which is a spin-out of materials, graphene-based research. So it's a material that's eventually a new material, graphene, out of IFN2, which is the Nanoscience Institute of Catalonia in Autónoma. They created this material that is implanted in the brain, and that is only the start. The material in itself is like an anecdote, because with graphene you can do so much treating data and treating patients and capturing information from the brain, that this has been a Series A of 20 million euros from day one, from international investors, from Deep Tech, tech transfer investors, and Asabys as lead investor also. So this is the type of thing we do, and this is the type of thing we are open for. So please contact us if you have projects, ideas.
But not now, okay? So we are in the middle of something, so
you have my data here.
Don't run to him, we'll be here.
Thanks.
So thanks to you. And Laurent, you play home, so you're a Bank Sabadell BStartup guy. So, but tell us what you do and what you experienced in all these years in healthcare.
Yes, thank you very much, and thrilled to be here with all of you. Well, my name is Laurent Arens, and I'm from the investment team of BStartup 10 in Bank Sabadell. We are an agnostic fund inside Bank Sabadell, where we invest in pre-seed, seed, and early stage startups here in Spain. Our ticket is 100K, and we invest in 13 companies per year. We have until today 65 companies invested through this vehicle. And we have also 12 companies in health tech sector, with 2 more companies that we are closing actually. In terms, additionally, we have 2 different programs to support the clean tech sector, like mobility, smart cities, and industry. And we have also, until 2018, a specific program to support the health tech sector in pre-seed stage, called BStartup Health, where we invest in 3 companies per year, a ticket of 100K. And we
is open? Is now open?
No, in June, July, I think. Okay. We have companies with Asabys, like InBrain, for example, or Asabys in this sector. And well, that's
Not bad, not bad. So you're doing well. And last but not least, that you will be the first one, Sebastian from Ina Capital, that is specialized in healthcare. So that's what you claim.
Yeah, sure. So thanks for inviting me to be here. It's great to be here. I'm Sebastian, the investment manager for Nina Capital. We are an early stage health tech focused VC fund based in Barcelona, but we invest all over Europe and North America. Our investment focus is early stage. So we come in at the seed, pre-seed stages of companies. Our investment thesis is investing in the intersection of healthcare and deep technologies, computing solutions, data-driven solutions, all in the healthcare space. And typical ticket sizes range from half a million to $1 million as a first entry ticket. We also have capacity to follow on invest in future rounds. In terms of our fund, our first fund was launched in 2019. We invested in 23 companies in 13 or 14 countries. And now we've just announced the closing of our second fund of 44 million euros, of which we started investing out of in September last year, and so far have made 5 or 6 investments as well. So
not bad. Not bad. And any company that you think that could be interesting to?
Yes, it's always difficult to choose between your children, but I guess one interesting company is Altromics, formed out of Oxford in the UK. They're developing an AI solution for echocardiography to help diagnose cardiac problems using ultrasound. They've recently successfully raised a large Series B led by Blue Cross Blue Shield's venture arm in the US, Google Ventures and Optum Ventures, which is interesting because this gives them huge access to the US market by being deployed in Blue Cross Blue Shield's clinics and being reimbursed by them as well.
And as member of Barcelona Health Hub, somebody from the Barcelona Health Hub you have invested in?
We've invested in Methinks. I'm not sure if they were a member of Barcelona Health Hub, but I think so. They're based out of Barcelona, and they're doing great as well. So our Catalan.
The Catalan ecosystem works.
Exactly. Yes.
So something that as investors probably you have been thinking about, and the first for me it would be Laurent, that is because they invest also not only in health but in other industries, is which is the difference you find as let's say institutional investor between the healthcare arena instead of other industries? What's better, what's worse? Which is your experience there?
Well, first of all, the background and the knowledge to invest in biotech, in medical devices and in vitro diagnosis are completely different when we invest in digital companies or like a B2B SaaS, for example. In digital health, it's more similar than traditional sector where we are investing through BStartup 10. It's true that the investment between you invest and you disinvest are more longer than digital health or digital companies, and probably as a fund agnostic, we don't have enough knowledge to invest in biotech, so we have experts like Asabys or like consultings that they can help us to analyze the market and the science behind the projects.
So co-investing is giving with somebody that's a specialist in the sector is great for you because you take the knowledge and all the trust that you can have on them is what really is good for the company. So then first thing, look for co-investors. No, okay. So not for investors, but co-investors. And based on your experience, why do you started to work in healthcare and not in, I don't know, in other industries?
Well, just I have to make a confession. I was the lawyer, so that took me to start moving away from the legal practice. And that is how, by chance, being in finance and doing my transition into something else, I happened to end up in the pharmaceutical company in Almiral, where I discovered a bunch of scientists and a family-owned company at the time doing research for the treatment of illnesses. And it was a very nice moment in early 2000s when the transformation of the ecosystem in Spain in bio and health started. At the time, you had Advancel, where my partner Clara was CEO at the time. You had Horizon Genomics. I mean, these initial companies in which I was starting to look at them as a target to be investing from a corporate, which was Almiral. But at the time, the company didn't decide to go forward. And that was the reason I started working in healthcare, because I did see the ecosystem blooming, growing. And and that's when I started my career as a VC back in 2006-07, doing biotech. And then the great thing is that in technology and medical devices, materials, communications, mobile technology started to converge. And that's where companies like the ones you founded and companies that have been taking advantage of technology have integrated in their business models technology, creating a new category of e-health, or as we prefer to call it, because we only do therapeutics, but digital therapeutics, digital health. And this is something which I find exciting, because Barcelona precisely, and Catalonia in particular, and Spain in general, but Catalonia and Barcelona is perfectly positioned because you have a huge healthcare industry, you have pharmaceutical companies, a high reputation of key opinion leaders, great hospitals, traction from the multinationals like Novartis or Roche that are based here in Barcelona. But at the same time, you have an ecosystem, of amazing technology companies with unicorns, right? You have Globo and you have other companies that have been reaching the category of
But we needed money as startups. Okay?
Yeah. But this is why, and it looks like obvious, and now, you know what? More and more VC money is coming into this ecosystem, and this is the perfect connection of talent in technology and health. So I think it's a great spot to be in. All of you guys that have a connection to this segment of the industry, and me as an investor, I'm super proud. We wouldn't be anything without entrepreneurs and without talent and without the ecosystem. I mean, I wouldn't have a job. So, good.
Oh, let's keep your job. And Sebastian, Nina is from minute zero started to be a VC specialized on healthcare and digital health and biotech. So why? The question is, well, as I asked them, why do you think that you started, and not only why biotech or healthcare, why healthcare and why in Barcelona?
Sure. So our founding partner Marta Gaia, she spent most of her adult career in Stanford, California. So she was an adjunct professor out of the medical school at Stanford University. She founded a medtech company. She also was a venture partner at one of the large Silicon Valley VCs. And what she saw was that traditionally the healthcare investment scene was very life science focused. And so there were few VCs that understood the engineering and tech side of healthcare. In the US, that was starting to come, but she found that there were loads of great European startups coming to the US looking for funding because there wasn't any in Europe. Now, as an early stage European startup, you're not going to get US money unless you have US traction. So she thought, she's also Italian, so she wanted to come back to Europe and basically bring this investment focus of early stage health tech to Europe. In terms of Barcelona, it's essentially one of the biggest reasons we were founded here was that in terms of startup hubs and healthcare startup hubs, Barcelona is one of the top, second to London and Berlin maybe. But where it's actually on top of those is in its growth. So Barcelona, we find, is the fastest growing health and startup hub in Europe, which was a huge reason to set up shop here, along with everything Josep said.
No, absolutely. And what about Clave? Clave started also with healthcare or not really?
Yeah, sure. I also have to confess, as José Luis has said, I'm not scientist. I don't have a PhD, right? But the only thing that I can say is that I've been investing.
Get out of here.
Yeah, sure. Is that I have been investing in the healthcare sector since 2005. We began investing in the first biotech companies here in Spain, right? So we have developed a broad experience, and around 2015, more or less, we just decided to focus on the health tech sector because there were like a confluence of very good important points, right? In Spain, we were creating a proper engineering technologies, and we also had a very proper investigation research activity leading to life science. And they were beginning just to join these two different environments in order to develop new medical devices, right? Until then, most of the Spanish health ecosystem was based in biotech. We were like around, 5, 10 different investors that we invested in biotech, but there were no investors in medical devices, right? And after that time, we just began that there were a huge opportunity just investing in this kind of projects, joining the activities and also the research activity from them universities and tech centers, focusing this both sides, right? This engineering activity linked to data science, data managing, biosensors, and so on, and also the experience with life science, right? So what we tried to do was also to join some private clinical groups, just from the clinician practice, in order to be able to build this kind of companies, right? Because in Spain, we weren't used to promoting and investing in medical devices. That's why we began with our first fund, trying to join these 3-4 different parts. Industry that wanted to invest or wanted to promote this medical engineering, another one from the clinical praxis that also wanted to use this kind of technologies coming from Spain, and the third one with these research groups that were interested in investing here, right? That's why we decided to focus in medtech, and it's been a successful story, as most of us have, because we have all invested in medtech companies that are doing these A rounds and B rounds successfully right now.
And do you think, and this is for you, so the digital health is also part of medtech for you, in your opinion? Have you invested in digital health, or you don't see it as interesting as an industry?
Yeah, I tell you, from a point of view, digital health is a transversal way of considering health tech. Digital health can be applied to medtech, diagnostic or therapeutic. It can be applied as well for nutrition areas, leading with probiotics and so on. There are a lot of apps and good opportunities in that stage. We have just seen one opportunity right here. And also in biotech, right, where nowadays most of the research activities began with in silico developments, right? So from our point of view, there are like two horizontal aspects that all the health tech projects must have. One of them is this digital health approach, leading with data. The other one is linked to personalized medicine, which is not only genomics, and it has a lot to do with data science and data management, right? So from our point of view, that's why when we consider a new deal flow, or when we are analyzing a new opportunity, we always try to see it from the digital health point of view, right? But not as a vertical, but an horizontal view. It's the same as in the 2000s, 2005, right? Where ITC was expected to be a sector itself, right? Yes. But it wasn't a sector. It was a transversal way or a group of tools just to be developed in a precise area.
Okay, makes sense. And now, something that let's share the experience. Let's share the experience with Josep. Do you think that the COVID pandemic really has made easier the job to rise funds for your fund, or not really? Do you think that this will have an impact in more investments in the future, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think COVID has affected in three ways. I can tell from my own experience, but I've seen, and it's a combination of the ecosystem, financing and venture capital and startup ecosystem. So first question that the investor tells you is, what about deal flow? That's the first thing an investor is asking me. Second thing I am asking the investors is, how much money are you putting into venture capital healthcare, which is an alternative type of asset, alternative investment asset, the allocation of their strategy? This is the second question. And the third one is, how successful are those companies in which you invest because of COVID? So because of the pandemic, it has been, at least for Asabys, we've been in the perfect spot because, yes, deal flow came. Why? Because everyone was understanding that digital health and telemedicine, and we're breaking the rules and breaking the inertias of many years of an industry which was very cryptic and very closed, and patients were not used to use apps for their own health. So this was creating a flow of innovation, and that transformed into companies. At the same time, investors didn't have a place to put their money, the uncertainty, but they knew and they realized what a PCR was. So I was going to visit investors where we were fundraising, and they were saying, oh yeah, when I took my PCR. I personally, in my previous firm, we did an investment in a PCR technology back in 2011. Stat Diagnostica, by the way, which was a scientific park Barcelona-based company that did 3 financing rounds and was acquired by Qiagen. That was part of one of my investments in the past. So we've been in PCR. So all these investors that I was talking to is like, oh, you now invest in healthcare, and you know about the importance of investing in healthcare innovation, right? Because it's affecting your life. Okay, so that helped a lot. So COVID,
your life and your sons and your
family and your world, right? So to your question, more deal flow, more openness for investors to consider healthcare as a place to put money and to invest in, and more deal flow, more healthcare. And the companies, and you can tell, I'm sure Nina has also lots of examples, companies are booming in terms of their metrics because suddenly everyone is using their app. Care in Germany was like, okay, we're using it, like it was fancy 2 years ago, now it's a must. Anyone who has a problem with digestive, inflammatory pathologies, they're using it. They're using it as a game. But they started using it because they were at home, and they realized they could improve their quality of life and the health by using an app, which is clinically validated and now reimbursed, as I said before. So anyway, yes. I have to say that unfortunately, I have to say that it was positive for us.
Okay, let's go with Sebastian. No, makes sense. You give us an American perspective, if you want, in some way. No, it's the same. Do you share the experience with Josep?
I agree. I mean, all the bad that came out of the pandemic, one thing it did do was accelerate adoption of digital health and health tech solutions by, I'm going to say 5-10 years in terms of real adoption by the clinical community. And we're seeing this push now, both from governments and also the actual clinics and the wider community. So in places like Germany, they're putting a lot of resources behind digital transformation of the healthcare ecosystem in general. Same in the US. We're seeing this shift towards digital adoption of these tools.
Even you think that it will be easier for you to raise more money to invest in new companies then?
Well, I mean, we raised the second fund in less than a year, so
yes.
So yes.
Okay, perfect. And let's change. So let's imagine that I own a startup, digital health startup. Okay. Let's imagine that, and let's imagine that they come to you and they ask you, what do I need? What do my little startup need to be invested by you? And it will start with you because you come from the earlier stage, in my opinion. No? What do you need if you are a digital health or a healthcare startup to be invested or co-invested by BStartup?
Well, we analyze a lot of things when when we receive a startup, but like the cap table, the deck, the market, the go-to-market strategy. But it's true that they have 3 key points when we decide to invest in a digital company. The first one is obviously the team. We search 100% commitment teams with knowledge about the sector and with the capacity to execute the plan. The second one is we invest in huge market. We analyze market enough large, more or less more than $1 billion in terms of TAM. And the third one is that when we analyze a project, we want to see that the problem that they are solving is a pain for the customer or for the market, and not just a nice-to-have product or substitutable product for the market.
But this is tricky in healthcare, you know. So
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, well, so then we must convince them. Let's go for the next. According to the ticket, your ticket is about 100,000. So
we invest in a first round 100K per company, and we have the capacity of follow-up of 2 million euros with Sabadell Venture Capital in digital health. Not in biotech or medical device, we can follow our investments.
Okay, and the next one, the next contestant, if you have a ticket, your first ticket is
between 500 and 1 million.
So you're the next one. And what do we need if we have a startup to convince you to invest in us?
So everything that Santiago said, and also our thesis is built on the idea of the biodesign innovation process that was developed out of Stanford. So we really like founders that have formed companies based on a need-driven approach. That it's not a technology that's been developed and then they find a need in the market. They've really understood the complex healthcare ecosystem in the niche that they're looking at, and they've identified this real need and developed a solution to solve that need. That's very important for us.
Let me be bad, as with Laurent, it was the same. So, but this is very uncertain, so that it must be no. So.
Of course. I mean, early stage companies pivots happen, which is okay. That's absolutely fine. But that pivot needs to be done based on a need-driven approach as well. So that's one of our main things. And then obviously team, that there's a really strong team. Not only the founders, but that they've been able to attract high-quality advisors. So often we invest in 2 founders who is their first time launching a startup. They're 26 years old. If they've really attracted key opinion leaders in the field who are there mentoring them, advising them, that's a big plus.
Okay, then this goes Santiago, because the next ticket, so your first ticket is about 500 to 1 million. No, it's 1 million.
That's the point, right? But I think it doesn't care if you are investing 500,000 or if you are investing 4 or 5 million euros. From my experience and from my point of view, there are like 2 main topics that we always consider in. One is the technology, and the other one is the market access strategy, right? And beneath both of them is the team capability and the multidisciplinary facts that this team may have. So for the first point, it's very important to have enough technology differentiations in order to give the proper added value proposition, right, for these projects, right? So we always study which is the current stage of the technology, what are the main issues that they want to solve, and how they are going to solve that, right? I always try to explain that from the venture capital, from our point of view, what we always do is to identify risks, measure risks, right, and then manage those risks. So the first point is to try to understand where is the differentiation, where is the disruptive, what is this technology all about, right? And the second one, which has a lot to do just with the market opportunity, is to try to focus properly from the very beginning, right, which is the proper market access strategy for that project. And that has a lot to do with what Sebastian says regarding the key opinion leaders, who is behind this startup, who are the prescriptors of this technology, who are the main clinicians or centers that would like to try to validate this device and why, right? Which markets would you go first? What is the reimbursement strategy and so on, right? So, and all of this, I mean, those two factors have a lot to do with the team capabilities, right? For a pre-seed round, you don't need to have a CEO normally. You just need to have a proper technology developers. You just need to have proper agreements with the tech centers that may develop your technology. For the seed round, you need more regulatory experts and engineering experts that may have the possibility to scale this device, to scale this solution. And where you are thinking about the A round, you are more thinking about this market access strategy, thinking about these market developers, right? So although what you are looking for in every stage is not the same, there is always these two factors. What's the disruptive and the differentiation proposal of the technology, and how this is going to be valued by the market, right? Although the health tech sector is very special, right? I was investing in my younger times in other kind of projects, and there is always something that it always works, right? If you want to succeed, you need to do things better than the current standard and do it cheaper, right? That's the main point in health sector or in every sector.
No, makes sense, makes sense. And let's go for the big fish in the tank now, that because Asabys is when you want to scale, you have data or not now, not necessarily.
Well, it depends very much on what the segment is, but instead of circling around everything you've said, which I think is relevant and very important, and I couldn't repeat everything which has been said, which I would agree. As an investor now, I don't know if it's maturity, I don't know if it's years of experience. I've invested in more than 40 companies in the last 15 years. I've been in the board of probably 12 in Israel, in the US, in Barcelona, in Reykjavik, Berlin. So what makes the difference and what we're looking for more than ever, apart from the AI, the HI. So artificial intelligence for an algorithm for whatever application in healthcare is important. But as an investor, human integrity, it's more important. I don't want to invest in someone who has a great technology and is not humble, is not listening, it's not executing as they said. They don't compromise, they don't share. They don't count on their teams, count on their investors, count on their independent board members. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm looking for. When we sit down, obviously we're going to be going through everything that has to do with the technical advantage, the clinical value. We know by the book what we're looking for. And I just wanted to bring a layer that probably it's less objective or less specific or technical, but more what makes difference. I've had great companies in which the CEO, founder, turned out to be a total write-off. But just because of the style, the attitudes, the values behind this type of... So if you're an entrepreneur, I think some people have a style and a profile that is not made up for a venture capital investor. And it's perfectly okay. You want to drive your company by yourself for the future of your grandsons, and you want to go big and global. Fine. VCs is one route of financing. VCs is one, but with VCs you have to have, some people would criticize me because of me saying a sharing attitude, because sometimes they feel like we are taking away everything from entrepreneurs. It's not what we do at Asabys, by the way. We create wealth and we share wealth, and we always take into account incentives, dilution. Everyone has to have a great story, a part of the story, right? But what I'm really looking for is, what we're looking for, and this is very hard to evaluate, is human integrity. Because as an investor, you're going to be long-term committed with someone, putting a lot of money, effort, time, personal connections, traveling, a lot of lack of sleep, and a lot of worries that you are around because the company is running out of cash. The company got a FDA letter saying, hey, you have to do the study 10 times again. Or basically, I don't know, or you get or everybody in the company wants to leave the company because they got a better offer from a competitor, right? All these sort of things happen all the time. So we have to have a team that's that has the integrity, transparency. When a bad news happens, you have to immediately manage that bad news and share it with the team, with the investors, transparency. The good news you manage. You tell them whenever you want to tell them. But the bad news, so this is what I'm now, after years of investing, what I'm really focused on is this guy or woman or man, a good partner for us.
Well, you really just answered the next question that was about what shouldn't have a startup to invest on it. So it was it's a lot about that. You have any other comment about why shouldn't you choose a startup to invest on?
Well, the human integrity is one of the most important
definitely
things. Yes, but it's true that when we analyze the digital health, we analyze KPIs, for example, we analyze the business plan, so the financials are important as well, but not the human integrity is probably the most important thing when we discard a company in our pipeline.
Well, it's interesting. So it's about the figures, it's about KPIs, but there is a profile. So you must also be, well, at least be in contact with you. So no?
I could tell you that there is a word that I always like to use in these cases, which is alignment, right? What's the main point to invest in a company? Alignment between the investors, the co-investors, and the team. If you don't get that, you are always going to have trouble in future, right? So I always say that there are not good investors, bad investors. There are not good deal flow, bad deal flow. It has to be an alignment between the project, between the startup, between the deal flow, and the co-investors and the investor, right? So what I could suggest all the owners of startups or everybody that are looking for an investor is first to know in deep who we are, how we invest in the companies, what we expect of the company, and how could we work together. That's the main issue, right? Because I know by heart, right, that there are startups and that may talk great things about Clave and myself, but others not, right? So as well as there are no good investors or bad investors, the main point is just to find the proper investor for your project and to be aligned in order to define the value creation of the project and later on the exit strategy, because there is one easy thing from our activity. We all of us have to disinvest, right? And I don't know your experience, but I have never disinvested in any company if the promoters, the rest of the shareholders, or the CEO didn't want to disinvest in that company, right?
So it's not only about the startup, it's also about who's investing with you, who are the co-investors.
Sure. That's the main point. I mean, we all have these drag-along clauses, these tag-along clauses. I don't know your experience, but whenever I have disinvested successfully, it's because the CEO, it's because the entrepreneurs, the promoters, and the rest of the shareholders wanted to disinvest in those conditions. That's the best way. And the only way to get these kind of things is to look for this proper alignment between all of the stakeholders in the company.
Good. Let's talk with Sebastian about how, once you are established here in Barcelona, is difficult for you to find a co-investor in the States or around Europe for a Spanish or a Barcelonian company? It's hard for you? It's easy? How do you see that? Because one of the things that we have in mind as a startup always is scaling, but scaling where? No? So the States is one of the main points.
So that's one of the big value adds we try to provide our portfolio companies. We, in the news, the VC world may look big, but it's very small. Everybody knows each other, and everybody shares deal flow with each other. I have calls with other VCs every week just to see, what's going on. So that's one of the biggest value adds I think any VC can give a portfolio company is to have these strong relationships with larger VCs, with VCs in other countries and the US, and basically be an advocate for your portfolio companies, to actually share them with them and try and promote them so that they come in the next financing round, essentially. So I think that's it's on us
Okay.
in that sense.
Okay. We have on time. We have 5 minutes, and so just one last question for you. And after that, if there is time to have any question from the people here around, maybe it would be nice. But the last question, it's easy. So, do you think that Spain is a good place to be an investor in health startups? So, it's better than others, it's worse than others. What do you think? So, not only because are here. So you are not forced to say, no, it's great because we live here. No. Okay, so you can say the truth if you can. Any of you?
I think, as I said before, I think we have the perfect combination of the ingredients to find opportunities in which healthcare and technology meet each other. And I think this ecosystem is, me having had companies in Minneapolis or in Amsterdam or in Tel Aviv, I don't find it different from the ingredients. So the basic elements, the components, where we really to prove, I think, it's the tech transfer and the licensing and the scientific research centers and academic centers, hospitals, and the local industry, not the international multinationals, but la industria tractora, we call it, the local pharmas, the local diagnostic companies. By the way, they're all in Barcelona, huge companies. This is what I'm missing. I think there's a little bit of better business alignment and vision and ambition from institutions and tech transfer officers. I'm saying officers, not officers. So there are people working in universities and research centers. And then the local industry. You go to Basel and you see Novartis with drinks with entrepreneurs. You go to Tel Aviv and Teva is there with a partnership with Philips, doing this sort of thing. By the way, I didn't see any Spanish pharmaceutical company in the mobile, right? Or nutrition company in the mobile. You see Nestlé here. Why? So this is what I think we're still missing. And this is probably why this is not growing as I see in Berlin, the growth of digital health, with Bayer having a sense there, Merck. Where's the industry? Where's the local industry in healthcare? Where are the chain of hospitals in Spain, insurance companies in Spain? I have a great insurance company as an investor, a couple of them, but they just started to invest in healthcare through investment partnerships with us. But they should be the local industry, insurance, pharma, hospital. They should be more active in the ecosystem. So there's all these amazing ingredients in this ecosystem.
At least we have Banco Sabadell doing things. So.
Yeah, no, Banco Sabadell for sure. Banco Sabadell helped us grow and start up as Asabys, as a fund. But I'm talking more about the pharma industry and the healthcare industry, more connected. And I think Health Hub Barcelona is doing a great job in bringing them into the São Paulo ecosystem. But I mean, there's still a long way if I compare with what I see in the other places. But it's a great place to be because this is going to happen.
I think on top of this, one observation I've had is the mindset. So what's very different to, say, the US, the US entrepreneurs, they're not scared of failure. I feel Spain and maybe some other European countries as well, failure is seen as a negative. And so that sometimes may stop some entrepreneurs from thinking bigger, think outside Spain, think globally. And it's okay to fail. You go to the US, an entrepreneur will come and they'll be proud. I started 3 companies, they all bombed. Great. Now I'm going to invest in you because the 4th one, you know the mistakes you've made. You're going to make this into a unicorn. So I think there's a bit of a shift in mindset needed in the entrepreneurial ecosystem here, that failure isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's learning and think bigger.
Great. Santiago?
Yeah, I would tell that things have changed a lot during the last 5 years. When we promoted and we launched our first tech transfer fund, which was 6 years ago, nobody here in Spain just understood the word tech transfer from an industrial point of view. And I think that in this 5-6 years, things have changed a lot, right? I have some industrial groups as LPs. They began to invest with us just like a proof of concept, just to try. Okay, what are these guys talking about, right? Nowadays, some of these groups are manufacturing our medical devices. They are commercializing our medical devices. And nowadays, I think that the national industry is really interested in developing this kind of tech transfer activities. One of these proof is that some of them have promoted their own corporate funds. Some of them, they have also developed different kinds of accelerators. Nowadays, the most challenging universities, right? They don't have OTRIs anymore, right? They have tech transfer offices where they are not thinking about signing agreements or licensing just their own developments, but they are focusing on creating spin-offs. 5 years ago, nobody talked about spin-offs. When you went to talk to a university and you tried to promote an spin-off with them, right? They didn't hear you because they didn't know what that was. Nowadays, for example, I have in my portfolio more than 10 companies that in the stakeholders are the universities, right? Because they consider these investments like spin-offs of their own activity with profitable expectatives. So I think things have changed a lot. Barcelona Health Hub, I think it's one of the consequences of this, all of this environment. That's why I congratulate them, because you are joining the different parts, just the clinician, the insurance company, the industrial companies, and all of them want to support these startups. And there are investors, like the four of us, that are willing to invest in this tech transfer activity. So I guess now in Spain, there is a great opportunity, especially in the pre-seed rounds. From a point of view, the E rounds, I don't know if the right word is, are very expensive, but they are not cheap, right? There is a huge work to do with the pre-seed and seed rounds, because we all of us need to work a lot with the CEO, with the promoters, with the entrepreneurs to build the proper proposal, right? But there is very good technology. As Lluís said, when you go abroad, right, there is no better technology than here. The only thing is that the business proposals are more worked and are more linked to the industry that we have here. But I think we are doing our works properly.
Perfect. Laurent, just one thing.
Yes,
please help us. Will you help startups in this pre-seed and seed?
No, I think that Europe have a lot of public funds as well. We have several companies in our portfolio that they have raised more than between 1 and 2 million euros in public grants. So this is a good complement to the equity as well.
Perfect. So well, it's the time. I think that we have enjoyed and they have shared a lot of information with us, and this is the end of the BC Barcelona Health Hub panel. And thank you very much, and a big applause for you.